Good evening and welcome to a night hike at Shawnee Prairie. I'm Rob and behind the camera is Mitchell. Let's take a walk in the woods and see what's going on tonight. So obviously while we're on a night hike, we have to utilize other senses because our vision isn't as useful in the dark, even on a full moon night. So one of those being hearing. And if you listen, you may be able to pick up the sound of the wind noise behind us. Now this tree behind me is a cottonwood. And the cottonwood's leaf has such a shaped petiole that as even the slightest wind catches it, and those leaves really quiver around. It is a relative of the quaking aspen out west. So it's kind of a neat tree to encounter while you're walking at night, because even just by the sound of the leaves, you can identify it as a cottonwood. So as we walk through the prairie, continuing with our sensory hike, we also can pick up on different scents that we may not have been able to smell during the day. And partly that's because there's things that sometimes bloom at night, and other times it's just because the moisture level of the evening and such, and you can pick up on these things a little bit more. But we've got asters and goldenrod in bloom now, which you can't really see, right? But you are able to pick up on the subtle scents that the asters and the goldenrod and some of the other late season bloomers that we have going on right now on this beginning of October hike. So when we do a night hike, we like to try to do an owl call, where we play a recording of one of the many species of owls that we have in our county. And if the other owls hear it, occasionally they'll come and check it out and see what's going on, or maybe they will do a return call. So I'm going to play the recording of an eastern screech owl. Screech owls are extremely common. If you have a couple trees in your yard and your neighbors have a few trees, more than likely you've got screech owls that visit your yard at least sometimes throughout the year. So these guys are pretty common. We know we have lots of them here at Shawnee Prairie. So I'm going to play its recording, and then we're just going to kind of wait quietly for a minute and continue our hike, and if we get lucky, we might get one to respond back. So in just a moment, you're going to hear the recording of an eastern screech owl. It sounds kind of a trill sound. It's not the classic hoot owl that you're used to hearing in movies, like the great horned owl. So now what we do is we wait quietly, and we'll see if anybody comes and investigates us. So we did our eastern screech owl call. Now we wait and we try to see if we can find it. In the meantime, we're going to say hello to Pip. Hey Pip. Megan, how are you doing?
Hey guys.
So here we have Pip, our eastern screech owl, our resident owl here, one of two owls that we have at Shawnee Prairie. And Pip is an eastern screech owl. Now he's a gray morph, and these are the most common that we have around here. You can also get a red morph, although most of this region we have the gray morph. Now hopefully you guys can pick up on his eyes. He's got really dilated pupils right now. They are open really wide so he can see really well at night. And he's out for a walk. So here, as we place Pip next to this tree, you can see how well he's camouflaged with the surrounding areas. The stripes on his body and the ear tufts on his head, not true ears, but feathers that give the appearance of snags, allow him to blend in pretty well. With his eyes open, you can see him, but if he were to close his eyes during the day, he would camouflage quite well against this oak tree. So frequently on a night hike, we'll bring this UV flashlight, at night we're able to pick up different colors with the help of this UV light, this UV black light. And right, what we've got here is we've got some fungus growing on the side of the log. Now during the daylight, it is just kind of a dull yellow, but when we put this light on it in the evening, that yellow glows even stronger and allows us to see as it moves all the way down. And if we look over here on the left, you can get a glimpse of all this fungus and the spores from it as they work their way down the log. Now other things also reflect to the UV light. We can get caterpillars. We can find caterpillars this way. We can find millipedes will reflect this way. And these are all elements that help these critters and plant life survive in their own realm. The human eye does not process the UV colors the same way, the UV spectrum, whereas many other animals are able to pick up on that UV coloration in broad daylight, and they can pick that up. So continuing talking about the UV spectrum, many insects and many birds and some other animals can pick up on that, and because of that, things like flowers sometimes have lines that don't show up unless you hit them with a UV light. So as we look along here, I don't have any. I'm kind of looking for caterpillars as we go here too. We've got a little bit of reflective from some of the leaves in here. There's a little bit of blotching of green going, bright green going on here. Hopefully you guys can see that on the camera. So the different elements of it are showing up. If we come up here to these asters, we're not getting a real good distinct line, but they are illuminated a little bit better. So it's possible that an animal, like an insect that can pick up on the UV, may be able to see that. Some flowers, like I said, they have lines that kind of direct the insect or hummingbird or what have you down into where the nectar is waiting for that animal, which helps the plant then pollinate. So we're going to go over this way and we're going to roll some logs, see if we can find any other invertebrates that reflect the UV light. So we're going to head over this way, and as we're going, oh hey Megan, how are you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Oh, you're out with Umber this time, I see. So Umber is one of our resident barred owls we have at Shawnee Prairie. We saw Pip earlier on, and now Umber's out for his nightly walk. How you doing, buddy? Now what you may be able to see on the footage here is that Umber's eyes, unlike Pip's, are a solid, dark, deep brown color, looking pretty black in the evening. And he doesn't have that yellow pupil or yellow around the outside. Umber, just like Pip, is extremely well camouflaged with his striped breast and feathers marking here, and he does a fantastic job of blending in with things at night. Barred owls tend to like wet, swampy woods, have a little bit more of a territory, they need a larger territory than what your screech owl would have, so a little bit less common than the eastern screech owl. But in Darke County, we still do have a fair amount of barred owls around. So we're going to listen for a response and from that barred owl that we played a few moments ago and see what we can find. All right, Umber, have a good walk.
See you guys.
See you, Megan.
See you, Megan.
So as I mentioned before we ran into Umber and Megan, we're going to look under a few of these logs here quick, and we're going to look for one invertebrate in particular. It's a millipede that lives around here. Now the millipedes are those multi-legged insects. They're not really insects, but multi-legged critters. They have 2 legs per segment of their body. It makes them a millipede. The legs are pointed downward versus the centipede, which only has a single set of legs per body segment, and those legs kind of point outward. Millipedes eat dead, decaying matter, and centipedes are predators. So this millipede that we're looking for, I've seen before at other parks. I've not seen it at Shawnee Prairie before, but I'm hopeful maybe we can encounter one because they're really cool. When you hit them with the UV light, they just completely glow, and it looks very Halloween-y looking. So we're going to roll a few logs here and see if we get lucky tonight. I'm not sure if you guys can see some of the blotching here. This is from varying degrees of mildew or lichen that are growing on the log. Roll this over, and Nothing real evident here. Something white down there that's reflecting back green. Possibly some fungus. Here. So no luck yet tonight. We'll replace these logs so any critters that are living underneath there are not completely disrupted in their evening activities. And we will continue on and see if we can get lucky seeing that later on. Alright, so we were lucky enough to find a glowworm. Now this is a larva for our lightning bug or our firefly. He's moving around quite freely in my hand right now. Happy that he is, or not happy that he has been extracted from his grassy home. But I'm going to turn off the UV light here in a minute and we're going to see if we can see his glow. So we've taken our glowworm and we've placed him back into the grass here, kind of giving him a chance to kind of reorient himself. He's a little, upset right now for being picked up, as one can imagine. But give it a minute or so, we're going to see if he can... Oh, we got a barred owl. Okay, listen up, everybody. The barred owl, unlike your standard hoot owl of the great horn, does a call that sounds like he's saying, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you?" Okay, so we've got in the distance, the sirens just went off from some police and you can hear the coyotes. Listen. So frequently coyotes, just like our domesticated dogs, will sometimes respond to like police siren. And we were sort of walking along, we were listening to the katydids, and we heard the siren go off, and shortly thereafter, coyotes. Very cool. Okay, so while we're listening here, you can hear the katydids. Now katydids are like, they look like big walking leaves. Sometimes they look similar to a grasshopper, but the katydid is the sound of the summer, and that sound is transitioning out as we get deeper into the fall here, but they're still hanging on. It's still warm enough from the call, and in the back should hear them saying katydid. Now the other thing I want to try while we're here, now that we're kind of having a quiet moment, is I'm going to play the barred owl's song. Remember, the barred owl sounds like it's saying, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" And I'm going to play this sound, and we're going to then play it a couple times and then quiet and see if we can get that one that we discovered back by the glowworms, see if they respond here. Now we're going to listen, try to discern if we get a barred owl to respond, potentially fly in, so we're going to be looking up through the trees as well to try to see that shape. Owls have a silent flight, so they aren't making a bunch of flapping noises as they come in. Now it's going to be really hard to see on this footage, but it's too clear and too perfect of a night not to end our night hike with a little bit of stargazing. So off to the left here, we've got Mars. Mars is close to us right now, and if you look over this direction, you can see just a faint glow. And if you're seeing this in person, if you go out and look right now, it rises shortly after the sun sets, and there's a distinct red glow to it. It's a bright red glow. So definitely go out and take a look at that. And the last two planets we'll point out, because the planets are bright enough that I think they might show up on this footage, is we've got Saturn and Jupiter directly over this way. So as we pan around here, you might be able to see that bright light, and that is Jupiter. Crazy enough, Jupiter being so far away is still emitting that much bright light as it reflects the sun back at us. So everybody, I want to thank you for coming out on a night hike with us today. Hopefully this works out and you guys get to see some really cool stuff. We had an amazing time with the glowworms and with the barred owl calling on its own, which was fantastic. First time I've ever heard a barred owl here at Shawnee Prairie, so I'm super excited about that. Hope everything's well with you guys, and hopefully see you guys on the trail again real soon.